Yeah, everything else is closed. Okay, here we go. We should be coming online now. We should
Yeah, I got
be.
all
I don't
mine.
see the. All right, here we go. So it's Clugston and Ken O'Neill, the guys that you know at JKD, and we've had a lot of technical difficulties. That's why we haven't been on weeks, but we're trying, and we already have some technical difficulties. But anyway, so we have a topic for you all this time around, and I don't know if I put the live chat box or not. I don't remember, but anyway, so you can try to send us messages during this. But we're going to talk about the most dangerous worldwide. And it's the most why it's the most dangerous, because it's the most common weapon, and it's not exactly one type of weapon, but it's a vast array of similar weapons, and that's something a lot of people don't take into account, and we need to talk about that. And that is, of course, for those of you who want to say it's a gun, it's not a gun. Worldwide, blades are the most dangerous thing. They kill more people. But as far as attacks go, and in some countries, it is the leading cause of death, and that's blunt weapons. And blunt weapons covers a great deal of things. It could be a crowbar, a pool cue, a ski pole, hiking stick, walking cane, and in the United States, baseball bats. Actually, baseball bats are the leading blunt weapon that causes deaths in the United States. It's a baseball bat. So we're going to talk about that. So, Ken, do you want to talk about the how hard it is to get people just to recognize that fact? I mean, it seems like it's so difficult just to get people to come to
Yeah,
terms with the fact.
yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. We ran those stats not too long ago, and everybody wanted to focus on gun disarms, and I said, well, the 2017 stats over here in Missouri, in particular, said there were 1,300 um, deaths related to firearms, but that includes, guys cleaning their gun in a discharge, people doing suicides and murders. I mean, it was everything lumped together. And I said, well, that's nothing compared to people getting wailed on with baseball bats and other objects. It's there's still more people doing that. I mean, it's just that simple and that clear. And that's why in when we train, we spend a lot more time dealing with going against a ball bat than we do ever. I don't mess with gun disarms a lot. That's a tricky business there. I'm not saying I avoid it, but it's pretty minimal. But yeah, we spend a lot more time dealing with baseball bats. We pick up odd stuff too, like pick up a mop or a broom, because that's a weapon of opportunity kind of thing, and it's lighter, so it moves faster, but it doesn't have the heft to do the damage. And I'm sure you're doing that too. We're experimenting with different kinds of levers. I just look at them as levers, and we we experiment with different lengths and different thicknesses um, to see what the capabilities are. Plus, when you pick up a lever like a broom or a mop or something, it's a whole different dynamic too, because it's got this thing on the end that's in your way. Trying to wheel that a floppy mop around is another crazy deal, but it happens. So we play around with that kind of stuff. I'm more worried about that than I am gun disarms any day. So that's sort of where we look at it with our classes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you said something there that's very key for a lot of people in the end, and that is weapon of opportunity, because uh, people will grab things. Humans like to grasp things. So when they get into a altercation, violence, fight, or you're getting attacked, you will grab something. So yeah, a weapon of opportunities generally come in the way of clubs. So And that could be like you were talking about weird weight, weird stuff. Golf clubs,
Yeah.
tree limbs, all of these things, and you'll see people use them because it's better than nothing, right? Having
Yeah.
a weapon is always better than no weapon, and it reminds me of thinking about. Remember the opening scenes for 2001: Space Odyssey?
Yeah. 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 You talking about the ape scene?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That was
yeah.
good. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah. That kind of says it all right there. You know?
Yeah, because that's what because the one ape or yeah, I mean we don't know what type of ape it really is, but suddenly gets a bone and it becomes a club, and so he becomes dominant, right? He's superior because he's
He's King Kong with that thing.
yeah, technology, right? I mean that's what it is. It's technology. It's a stick, a broom, whatever is technology compared to not having anything. And that's something
Yeah.
we got. I mean, you got to get that. People don't think about it. You don't have anybody think about it, except, and that's why we're going to get. We're going to get very controversial here because we're going to be telling the truth, and there's going to a whole group of people who are not going to like it, and that's the Filipino martial arts because they always say, "Well, we do. We start out with weapons. We use sticks. We train people in sticks. Uh, our whole premise, our whole concept is centered around weapons." Yeah, really. So I don't know. I'll start in on this. The Eskrima stick, the Kali stick, the Arnis stick are I have one here. I should get it. Specific. I will get it while you're talking. Specific length and size and weight. Have you ever seen any indication of this happening in just street fights, mob violence, or anything like that, Ken? I mean, have you
No,
seen
no.
anybody?
I've seen more people with tire irons. If you're going to pick something other than bats, I've seen that. I've seen that happen more often. Guy grabs a tire iron. I think a lot of guys just leave them on their back seat for that purpose. In fact, I know they do. I've had people over the years admit that instead of their tire iron being in the trunk, their tire iron's laying on the back seat or between their console and the passenger seat because it's already in the car. And it's got some heft to it, and if you hold it by the tapered end and you've got the bent lug end of it, man, that's like hitting a guy in the head with a hammer with that damn thing. So that is definitely one more common thing I've seen. The only guy I know that's ever had a kind of a baton type thing with them in their vehicle is me, because I was given as a gift by St. Louis Police Department a polycarbonate baton that they developed years ago. The idea being that it would put a fluid shockwave through motor points. This thing was geared so that when you hit somebody hard with it, there was like a vibration to it. And they had this theory. They did a bunch of testing in the lab that it could potentially shut down motor points better. And I'm like, yeah, but none of the guys wielding it have the accuracy to hit motor points when they're all worked up. It's not like these guys are in the police academy training this stuff every week. I said that's a little too sophisticated, but that was during the time when there was transitioning from a lot of guys carrying those damn tonfas around and just going back to a straight.
Yeah.
And at least the polycarbonate one was lighter. You could move it faster instead of the ones they used to carry were those huge, thick billy clubs. A lot of times they had the wrist thong thing on them, that swing those around unless you're King Kong, So that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think that the Tonfa one was called a PR something or other. There's some name, and they went through a certification course, which didn't amount to much with that thing. The ones I just don't like the straps. They were like, you don't lose it. Well, I mean, what are you talking? Because it limited it. Yeah, the Billy. It's kind of like it was called a Billy Jack, wasn't it? I mean, originally. But those, I mean, this is a practice stick. This is from the Philippines, and it's very light, and it's I don't know if you can get an idea of how long this is. It's under a meter. I'll tell you that.
26 to 30, typically 26 to 30 inches usually. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a thicker version that I've had for a long time, actually, for a long time. And this is again a practice stick. But the thing is, what I'm getting to is you won't find these as opportunity. You want, and this one hurts, and if you're good with it, yeah, you can stop somebody. But otherwise, you're not going to stop anybody because it hurts. But it's not going to, unless you hit people in the right places, it's not going to incapacitate them.
Yeah.
This would be better. This would be better. But it's what the difference is. Like you were talking about a tire iron, it's the density. It's the density, the mass. The mass is higher because the density is higher, and that makes it harder. So you're getting hit with something much harder because this thing will flex if you film it. I mean, this thing will flex a huge amount.
Yeah.
So the deflection that takes some but what and these are just practice. I know that people, all of you Filipino martial arts guys, I know that. But what I'm saying is you don't have these. You're not carrying these around. You're not going to find these. And the problem is, like you just said about the length, that determines how you use it. And so doing all these things that they want to do doesn't translate elsewhere. Because if you're trying to, you cannot move a tire iron as fast as you can move one of these sticks. So everything that you're doing with a tire iron is not gonna work the same as it works with this. And most people, yeah, they just do as this is generally called the number one strike coming this way. For most systems, this is a number one. That's what humans will do. They will attack you with no training here. And this is what people and mobs, this is the thing you have to train for. You have to train for this. The death blow down 12 o'clock. Some people will do that, but the heavier the club, stick, whatever, the more likely they're going to go one. They're going to hit you from a one all the time. They're not going to give you the this is the two in most systems. They're not going to give you the backhand strike. You're not going to see it, and that's just you have to train people to handle this. This is the most common. If you're going to look at statistics, it's 98%. This is what you're going to get hit by, this angle, this attack. So you got to be able to handle that. And what I'm saying is when you're dealing with pool cue, it's different. Pool cue is because of the length and the weight and which way you're holding it, which there's ways to hold it that are going to be an advantage for you. You're not going to be able to move it anywhere close to what you can move these sticks. So Filipino martial arts guys, have you ever seen them? And here's why, one of the reasons why they go wrong. Do you have ever seen any of those guys practice with other things, or are they just using always
the only problem is the other stuff they practice with is exotic stuff that you're not going to see. Same problem. Even more exotic than that. You know, like the wavy crisp blades and all that shit. I mean, who's carrying that stuff around? Or we can get really silly and talk about samurai swords and training with those.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are used differently. But kendo, right? Kendo. So you're only going to attack the left side. But what I'm trying to get to is the fact that if you train blunt weapons, you need to train in a system that's applicable to many different types of blunt weapons. That's the key right there. And I'm telling you, Filipino martial arts stuff based off of, I don't care if it's arnis or eskrima, which is, stick predominant, or if it's the stuff that's blade predominant, but they use a stick instead, like Bikini or many others, but just using that. That stuff you can't use because you don't know how to. All weapons change, but the way you use a weapon changes on its weight, its length, and how it's held. So its configuration too, like we're saying, if the weight is not uniform, because everyone's using these sticks and they're uniform weight, and they don't have one end that's heavier than the other, which is not true with all types of stick fighting or all types of training. And you got to learn a system that applies to many different types of blunt weapons. So that's why when we do training, when I do training and I've done training and it's military stuff, it's really blunt weapons training. Blunt weapons training because I'm training people to be able to use from the catchphrases, to be able to use from like a walking cane up to a out of ammo carbine stock. Uh, and the way that you use those is far different than the way you use a screamer stick. Far different, and it's more direct in its application. It's not like, oh, you got to spend all this time and do all these things, spend all these years practicing patterns and uh, and cooperative training partners. That's not effective. It doesn't work for war. So that stuff does not apply to war. Uh, and there would be a lot of people. Well, you don't know, but that's it. The whole point. If it cannot be taught in 5 days maximum, if it cannot be taught in 5 days, it's not useful to militaries. It is not. It's that you don't know what you're doing. You can teach people how to shoot well in 5 days. If that's all you're doing, you definitely can. You can definitely teach people how to be snipers, uh, not mile shots, but you can teach people 500 meters and more in 5 days. Same thing. Same thing. Other aspects. So if you cannot do it in 5 days, then it's some sort of parasitical training thing where they're trying to become the guru and have you be in a position where you're attached to them forever, right? I think we talk about that aspect of martial arts before or not? We might have, right?
Yeah, what do you mean specifically?
Well, the point where it's so difficult to learn these techniques, you're going to have to apply yourself for years, and you'll have to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 And
you'll have to be.
That's the money hook.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Nowadays, it's a money hook, right? I mean, it's. Yeah, but I think in the old days, before that, it was just a way to secure that students, you got acolytes, right, with you, and in some regards, though, I do understand this. It's proving that the person has focus and motivation and stick to itiveness, because to learn they're not just there short term. They have to show their dedication and stuff. I understand that aspect of it, but I deal with results, and I also make money from being able to teach people results, and I do it quickly. And so I'm not buying into that paradigm. I have not bought into that paradigm, and it's really important that we have to eradicate that propaganda from people. It takes years to be. No, it does not. How long does it take how long does it take someone to become a really good shot? And I'm not talking about, okay, you're the world champion, whatever shooter, competition shooter. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your ability to be able to actually real world shoot stuff. It doesn't take years, not if you're trained the right way and have the right training. Well, I'm talking gun stuff now because it's very applicable. Like Rogers shooting, the way that they changed everything with his training, that shot everybody, to use a pun, that increased everybody's ability rapidly, very rapidly. Same thing that we're doing. You can't waste time. And I think it's important to let people know that, one, that blunt weapons are what you're going to face a great deal of the time. And what have you been training to do? I mean, before, ask an MMA guy how much training they've done to face somebody with a stick, right? Or a crowbar or a baseball bat, which are all handled slightly differently because there's different things that go on with those because, again, of the length and the weight. But yeah, in reality, the crowbar can be the most dangerous of those because of the speed, because of the it can be shot. A baseball bat is a big reload time if they're really trying to hit you. I mean, that's your. I'm giving out secrets. That's your chance. It's like a musket, isn't it? A baseball bat being used for real is like a Kentucky long rifle. They got their one shot, and then it takes them a bit of time to reload for the next shot.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed say a crowbar, which is can be can be moving pretty quickly. So I have you had okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Have you had a lot of problem getting that across to people? Your students, I mean, have they even considered blunt weapons until you bring it up or not?
Until I bring it up, no, probably not. Probably not. And you know, though, you just throw some statistics at them though, and you bring it out, and you know, I mean, people can kind of sit there and sort of almost logically go, well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, a lot more people have access to some kind of blunt weapon even than they do to guns, even with the number of people carrying guns, you know. Plus, a lot of times with the blunt weapon, people, they don't have to be as committed. You know, the idea can be, I can bop a guy a few times and knock him down and get him off my ass. Whereas the gun, it's like, unless you're really good, like the old cowboys, I'm just going to wing him in the shoulder. I ain't trying to kill him. You know, I mean, you know, it's sort of like the gun thing. It's so final, you know, generally. I mean, unless you're really good or you get lucky.
Yeah.
Something vital.
And like,
yeah.
and
Huh? What? I lost you.
Well, you're about the gun. Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
the gun.
Yeah,
okay,
you don't have
the gun.
Yeah, you don't have a gun on you every second.
Stuff. Yeah. Okay. So freezing problems here.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Problems going. Are you there?
Yeah. Is this all satellite issues, you think?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm hearing you on and off.
Okay.
More off than on.
Oh. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
more off than on.
Delays.
Okay, so
I'm
gonna hit I'm gonna kill. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I turned my video off because of the bandwidth problems. So we're gonna. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, even the audio is still kind of choppy.
All right. Well, I've turned off the video to save bandwidth, so we're going like a podcast now. And what I was going to say was, you're talking about the factor that the people don't think about it, and I think we got to bring this up because media doesn't talk about people getting attacked with clubs or sticks or crutches. They don't talk about it. You know, all you ever hear about in the U.S., all you ever hear about is shooting, right? Everything's just geared about shooting. They don't talk on the rare case of hitting somebody, but they never talk about people being hit with a crowbar or a tire. And that, don't you feel that lack of coverage is giving people a false sense of idea of what they need for self-protection in the U.S.?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's just because it's not as exciting news, you know. So-and-so whacked so-and-so 5 times with a baseball bat. You know, it's not as exciting. You know, it's not as sensational. I think that's why they don't. I mean, you have to go digging around to even find statistics, and then you see them and you go, oh wow, there's a lot more of this stuff going on than there is gun stuff, you know. But it, like you said, it's just. I guess it doesn't make for exciting news. That's all I can figure.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that it it's a security for people in the United States because they tend to think that everything is just either fist fights or gun fights, and
Yeah.
that's very prevalent in the whole cultural makeup of U.S. people. They don't consider that there are clubs and knives, and that's what in the rest of the world. That's what the fight. That's what's going to happen. Attack with a club or a knife, as a generic term. You're going to be attacked with a blunt weapon or a blade of some sort. You're not going to get in a fist fight. They're not gonna MMA you, and they're not going to have guns everywhere like the United States. It doesn't happen. Now people want to bring up outliers, but just in fact in the United States too, the whole thing, as you said, our gun statistics are very skewed because they include people committing suicide. They commit, accident, hunting, hunting errors, and it includes gang warfare. And if you eliminate all of that stuff, if you eliminate gang warfare, accidental shootings, suicides, the gun deaths are pretty low. The actual shooting numbers are very low. So
yeah, and they don't talk about the knife. They don't talk about the knife, death by knife that much either, and that's a lot higher as well. But God, you don't hear about that anymore, hardly than you hear about blunt weapon stuff. It's just as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what I'm getting to was part of our job, especially in the United States, is to educate the people about the actual risks, because
Yeah.
it's just like saying if you were to go in and you have like you're trying to get house insurance or auto insurance or whatever, they evaluate your car or your house, don't they? And the same thing, we're giving you personal self-protection insurance. So we tell you that you haven't even evaluated what's most likely to occur to you. And these things people don't think about, and not thinking about them doesn't make them go away. It doesn't make them go away. So you've got to be very cognizant of the fact that these attacks occur, and what are you going to do? And now, I mean, realistically, you and I know, but I want this as a question to people out there. Where have you gone that talks to you about these factors? And one, they talk to you as self-defense as if you're going to get attacked unarmed. If you're going to some martial arts place, they definitely act as if you're going to be attacked only when no one has a weapon. Or if they try to do weapon stuff, it's crap because they have never had to do it for real. Their stuff is theoretical and contrived. It's not isomorphic, and they can't apply it against uh, mock-up situations. And you got to. I mean, it's a huge disservice. Number one, because how many places can you go where they will say, "Yeah, we'll teach you self-protection," and look, one of the big things you need to do is be able to handle somebody trying to hit you with blunt weapons, and then knives, and then gun stuff. Let's just keep off the table right now because that is a very high skill that needs to be practiced a lot, a lot. It has to be taught the right way, and it has to be practiced a lot. And it's not a thing where you see it and you can try to do it. No, it's not going to work. So leaving the gun stuff off to the side, how many places? I mean, I can't tell you anywhere that legitimately, besides me, legitimately tries to handle that. Have you seen it? Have you seen anybody where you go in and they say, "Yeah, we do self-defense, and we're going to teach you these things"? Have you found anybody doing that?
Well, that's what got me started doing it all the way back in the 80s, because nobody was doing it, you know? And that's also what made me shift away from ridiculous damn variations of stick work and BS like that to stripping things down and testing them and finding out more solid stuff that you can get across to people that they can use, you know. I know this thing is oriented really mainly to we're talking mostly about blunt weapons, but I think this still applies. I mean, what we've been doing this week is this has been more focused on knife, but taking apart, like what I've been focused on this week is taking a lot of the stuff I've picked up from Systema with knife work for knife defense. I've already, you know, I already had my conclusions, but I wanted the guys to experience it by trying it. That, you know, a lot of the stuff you learn in these classes is so ridiculously complex. And I think part of how that happens is because the guy teaching it, partly out of boredom, over the years, and so they start creating more elaborate stuff that's kind of, in a sense, it's just kind of a way to show off, I think, you know, showing high levels of timing, which, okay, it's cool to work toward developing higher levels of timing, but when, you know, 99% of your guys are standing there and they don't have those levels of timing, why are you putting them in drills that you're doing things that they're never going to pull off at all for real? You know, when you take it out of the drill arena, and this relates whether it's knife or blunt weapon, the idea that the guy comes in with this single blow. He gives you this single blow, and you know, great. I wish it happened that way. You know, it just, he comes in with that stab, or he just does that one swing, and that's all you know, that's what you deal with most of the time. And as soon as you know as well as I do, as soon as you go to a weapon that's moving fast and moving erratically, it's a whole new game, and that stuff, most of it falls apart, you know. So you have to train it a whole lot different, and this is where I see most martial arts fail. You know, everything's against one single direct attack. You know, it's not a guy moving a knife or even moving a stick like a wild man, you know, or a baseball bat. You know, it's always this one big single thing, and it's just not real, you know. So we've been testing a lot of stuff lately, and just picking things and saying, okay, we flush this down the toilet, it's basically useless. You know, it's good to do drills to a degree, as long as if the drill is at least developing some really good attributes, like it's making your ability to move faster, it's giving you better timing, that has some value. But when you take some of that stuff out of context, it looks like it's the answer to dealing with a real attack. And it's like, no, the real attack needs to be more erratic and fierce, you know, if you want to make it real. So this is one of the biggest failures that I see all over the place, regardless of what the art is.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about this stuff before, but it's good to reiterate it. And that is that you see this, and I've said this many times. You'll see this really in Salat guys. I think they're the worst case scenarios of this stuff. And then you see it a lot. I watch Filipino martial arts guys. I mean, I can't take it for very long, but they'll do this stuff, and it's like you're saying, their attackers are cooperating. They're moving slow motion. They hold their attacks. They do things that actually biomechanically would not happen if it's moving quickly. They can't stand like that. They wouldn't do like that. They're not reacting. And then, of course, the defender is moving 5 times as fast as they are to try to be aggressive with something. Well, I guarantee you, when you go up to combat speed, they cannot move 5 times faster than the other guy, because they're going to be behind the other guy's initial speed, because the other guy is starting before they are, and they're going to suddenly be going 5 times faster. No, it's not going to happen. So there is a lot of training flaws, and that's one of the things that I pointed out years ago to people, is that their training methods were wrong. And that's why I get paid to do what I do, and that's why military contractor guys don't want to waste time with that, because it's just, why are you gonna? It's like saying that you're swimming and you just move your arm once. That's not swimming, because your motion, your movement is gone. And something that you are touching on, and something that's vitally important to being successful, is that you got to train these guys so that it works in the worst case scenario. And what does that exactly mean? Well, it means that it will work with low lighting, that it will work when you don't have perfect footing, that it will work when the guy is tired, and it better work when the guy is scared out of his mind, because people are going to be scared out of their mind. If you're facing a weapon, knife or blunt weapon, and they're trying to kill you with it, you are going to be scared out of your mind. I don't care what these other people try to tell you. And if your technology and your training has not covered that, if it hasn't given you gradations of you being scared out of your mind, or it doesn't use things that compensate for being scared out of your mind, then you will not pull it off. And these high level perception, great timing, athletic things happening when you're wearing shorts and t-shirts and running shoes, that is not going to work when you're wearing boots, you're in the mud, it's raining, you're tired. Hey, what if you're drunk? Oh, so suddenly you're supposed to, a lot of martial arts guys, well, yeah, well, it's, oh, so you're saying that uh, you're blaming your lack of technology being applicable to someone being drunk as then they should just die. I mean, because this is real life. So you got to have stuff that's going to work in a variety of environments under a variety of different personal situations. And this is something I just don't see other people doing. Uh, and I've looked, and there are a lot of people who, reality based self defense. That became huge there in part of the '90s, and kept going. And there's still people doing it, but it's better than a lot of things, but the problem is that I don't see the attackers trying to win. Because if you don't have your attacker trying to win, then you are not been in the actual type of struggle that you're going to face in violent situations, because they are going to try to either kill you, rob you, kidnap you. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about schoolyard fights. We're not talking about ego fights. All those things can be de-escalated and avoided. We're talking about things that cannot be avoided, because I train people for warfare where it cannot be. You cannot talk your way out of warfare. It doesn't work. So when it's on, what are you going to do? What's your solution then? And how's it going to work? When it's dark, you're carrying weight, you've got boots on, and you have restrictive clothing that you can't do Jean-Claude Van Damme splits in. All that stuff is very important because nobody considers it. They don't consider it. And MMA guys, we train people, you're learning self-defense. No, you are not. You're learning a symmetrical sport where you can beat another guy in the street as long as it's just one-on-one and everything is equal. But that's not how things go. That's why we're saying that the blunt weapon is the most opportune weapon, because people are going to grab something. If they feel scared or if they want to kill you, women included here, including women, women are very quick to grab something to hit you with. Working security, that's what I saw all the time. Women are very quick to grab something to hit somebody over the head with, and that's almost instinctual. So you have to be able to counter instinctual things, and you cannot do that by trying to override that with, like we were talking about, the complex pattern things. And I mean, people get abstracted into that stuff, like trying to come up with 50,000. I mean, I think that you talked about this before, like one of the things that made you fed up with Filipino martial arts, and one of the things that I got fed up with now, so with all those types of codified martial arts, is that they try to come up with a million different solutions instead of working one that works. And then just, I like, how many ways is there to pull a trigger? There's two ways to pull a trigger where it's the best. You can pull a trigger to make the gun miss, yeah, but to pull off a good shot, there's one or two ways, to shoot. And so the same thing, why are you not using one or two ways for self-defense that work? So, guys trying to hit you with a punch, Why are you trying to come up with 95 different answers? Same thing with a stick. And this is what we see, right? I mean, that's what you see. You see guys, well, here's this. I could do this. I could do this. I could do that. And say, yeah. And my question is, how many of those have you ever done in reality? Well, none is what the answer always is. None. Because guys who do stuff in reality will stick to the same couple moves all of the time. All of the time. And that's how you can tell if you've seen somebody who's been in real conflict. I'm giving out information here. But I mean, you had that struggle, Ken, and how did it go for you when you told people like,
Oh,
look, we don't need 85. We don't need 85 would-be solutions.
well, it didn't go over well. I mean, for one thing, it's not a great model for the average commercial school, which is the situation I was in at the time. You know, so basically it got weird because when I would teach the regular classes, I had to stick to the program. But on the side, I'm over here stripping things down and making them solid and basic and figuring, okay, if this only fails 15% of the time and other stuff I'm doing is failing 90% of the time, then you get rid of the 90% stuff and you strip it down to these basic things, you know, and you just become more and more and more and more proficient at the basic stuff. But it was only the more serious students, basically generally people doing private instruction, who are willing to train that way. It's not as exciting. It's in some ways it's almost boring at times because of the repetition that you have to do. But you know, it just depending on your mindset. You know, what are you trying to get here? You know, good case in point on this is I saw a video yesterday. I'll give this Aikido guy credit for being very honest. He said, okay, I've been in Aikido for 13 years and they show him doing his stuff and it's real smooth and pretty. And then he gets in a ring with a guy who's just going to kick and punch him. And his stuff collapsed and fell through. He's trying to go in and put wrist locks on, and the other guy's just beating him to a pulp and throwing him on the ground and slamming him. And you know, it was, you know, but the guy was willing to get out there and see what would happen. And you know, he even admitted going out there. He said, "I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off without the right prescribed attack." So here we are back to that again. You know, so you know, I think part of what we're saying here is, you know, there's martial arts which are these elaborate systems of a bunch of stuff that was accumulated over a lot of years, a lot of the reasons we said earlier. And then there's guys that are training for actual self-defense training, and it's much more simple, much more direct stuff. Plus, the other component there is if you're a guy who's going to have to, you know, figuring good chance you're going to have to apply that. I mean, 80% of that's going to be you better be in a really good physical and mental condition to pull it off. That's the other part. You know, I mean, you see how fast people get gassed out that are even in shape when it's, you know, when you're going for real, full speed and people's breathing gets interrupted and they get hit a few times and, whew, you know, you can be out of gas in a minute.
Yeah, that the conditioning aspect is important, but there's a big difference though in the factor that it's not sport fighting, which is where
Yeah.
that comes in. That's where that comes into factor because there are different targets and different tools you can use in reality, and that's what I do. And that's and it's not because I don't know. I mean, yeah. Once again, for somebody who hasn't listened before, you know, I was a professional fighter, 75 fights on 3 continents. I did it: boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, shoot boxing, K1. I did all that stuff at a high level, and I'm telling you, that's not what you do for self protection, self defense. That's not what's gonna. There's things that you can take away from that, but it's not time efficient. Is what I'm getting to. So doing Muay Thai, doing sports stuff is not time efficient if you're trying to learn self protection, and it takes you away from dealing with weapons, which is what we're talking about, and blunt weapons, especially the. I don't care how long somebody's been doing MMA. and then they want to come in, and then you pull out a blunt weapon on them, they're clueless because now they've gone to zero training time. They have zero training time against blunt weapons. They're not doing it. There's a few exceptions someone's going to throw out there. What about Tim Kennedy? Yeah, Tim Kennedy's a Green Beret, and he knows he's got to be about war fighting. So yeah, that guy, you're not going to throw him out there as well. That disproves me. No, it doesn't disprove me at all. In fact, it underlines what I'm saying because he is a war fighter. So I think that to people, a normal person needs self-protection, self-defense. They don't need sport fighting. And as you said, like, what are people training for? Now, if you're training to be in shape for fitness, then yeah, you can do all this stuff. You can do capoeira, you can do all this acrobatic thing. You can do gymnastics type of. There was like some sort of gymnastics karate. Somebody tried to hybrid and make a fad out of back about, I don't know how long, a decade or more ago. The thing is it was too high skill for normal people. They couldn't pull it off, So anyway, that it was like break dancing. Break dancing was back in the 80s, but it was too difficult for most people. That's why it died out. It died out because it's just too difficult, and you had to be in shape to keep doing it for any length of time. But anyway, the factor is that you got to take a real assessment of what you need. That's why we're saying evaluation. You have to evaluate what's important to you. Now, everybody needs self-protection. Everybody has insurance. Why do they have insurance? Do they think that their house is going to burn down? Do they think that they're going to get in a car accident? Do they think that someone's going to steal things from them? No, but they don't know, right? So that's why they get insurance. But now when you talk about this, like what we're doing, saying learn self-defense, self-protection. Self-protection is a little bit more, covers more than just this, what people mean by self-defense. That is insurance against being attacked, against robberies, against kidnappings, against home invasions. All of these things, it's an insurance. You need to take out and invest in some insurance. That and not thinking about it doesn't change. It does not think about your teeth keep you from getting cavities. No, it doesn't. It takes preventative measures to do that, and that's what we're talking about here, people. And one of the biggest services that we've been doing, I feel, is that we're making people think about preventative measures about everything, and we're talking in real terms about real things that happen with real data. You pulled out statistics before, specifically for Missouri, because that's where you're at. That thing, and I pull out USA statistics because I looked at the FBI, who gives the best overall statistics that you can base things on, and you need to know those. You need to know that, and you need to go to people who can. If they can't tell you the statistics, then they're not a professional in this field. They're somebody at the YMCA, just using the worst case scenario, is not a professional in this field. They don't know this stuff. The people who are running kitty classes, martial arts stuff, where they make a lot of money off of, oh, we're teaching life skills. They don't know jack shit about this stuff. They don't know a thing. And they're high school kids who are teaching in these places don't know a damn thing. They have no operational experience. So my point is here, how important is your life? Because that's what we're talking about here. A lot of people want to avoid it. They want to avoid this. I remember Mike Sandlin having talks about this a lot with me. You have to decide like how much your life is worth and what you're willing to do to protect it. That was one of his key operating core desires, that you had to have that desire to protect yourself, or you're not going to do it. You're not, you're going to lie down and die. So that's something, we have to get that across to people, and that there's so much buffoonery, so much faking, so much posing going on, charlatans out there who want to tell you, well, we do this and that, and I've taught this and that. How many real instances have you been in? How many times have the people that you have taught used the stuff? it's all about results and and having the experience. If you don't have operational experience, then you should not be teaching this. You shouldn't be talking about any of this stuff. And it's it may seem very serious to you. Like, wow, man, he's really being serious. He's cutting down martial arts. Yeah, I am cutting down martial arts because there's a lot of people in it who think that it's cool to be this martial artist guy, but they don't know anything about what we're talking about. They don't have any experience in it. They can't produce results. They don't know. They want to perpetuate that sort of. I mean, do you want to call it like master and slave, or how do you want to call it? Like this. Uh, I mean, you really find it with the Filipino stuff. Grandmaster. I was with the grandmaster, and the grandmaster, did this and that. I've seen, how many fights has the grandmaster really had? Because I see lots of those guys who couldn't fight their way out of the bathroom, and a lot of things that they're trying to show people, everyone's applauding to, they can't do. They can't do it. So I feel like Ralph Nader, to use it to somebody that you would be familiar with.
Well, the good thing is that, and I'm even beginning to wonder if some folks are listening to us, because I've been, all of a sudden I noticed there's a couple of guys in particular that are putting up these videos, and they're doing exactly what we're talking about. They're trying to bust myths. They're taking common myths from self-defense and from martial arts stuff, and they get right there and they test them out, and they're showing how a lot of this the BS stuff fails, and I'm glad to see that, because it's starting to get a little more prevalent. I don't know if you've been seeing these things. I think one of them, these guys call it martial arts journey, I think it's called, and all they're doing is testing stuff and to see if, like, okay, well, here's what we've heard. You've heard this forever, that you can do this, that, or the other. Now, is this really going to work? And they get out there and they're testing the stuff and they're making videos, and I like it, because most of what I'm seeing there, it's realistic, and these guys are just honestly trying to see, well, I always heard that if you kick a guy in the knee, that it's always going to end the fight. So here they are, and they're trying out knee kicks, so that's good. And it's funny that this is just now, I'm starting to see this more frequently, and I got a feeling that some of this might be people hearing us, and then they're getting the idea, and then they're going ahead and they're just making videos of showing what they're doing with it. I like that. I like that that's happening, because that's going to help our cause, which is to put to rest some of this BS. One of the ones I just saw, it was called, does trapping, we've talked about this. See, that's why I think these guys are listening. Does trapping work in a real fight? So these guys are sitting there, and one's punching, the other guy's trying to trap his hands, and seeing the limitations of that, So yeah, it's cool. I think it's starting to happen. It's starting to happen. So you got to wonder, what's the long-term effect of that going to be? Maybe it'll be more people starting to train more realistically, but at least I'm glad to see that some of that's starting to pop up, instead of just more ridiculous nonsense being shown over and over again. There's still plenty of that too, of course,
Well, yeah, there's been a move since the 90s for people to try to, they call it many different names, field test it, crucible, put it in the crucible, or just play with it. Some people say, we'll play with it, see what happens. But what they're missing a lot of times is that they don't have answers. They can't figure out answers.
That's true.
They figure out what doesn't work, but they can't get an answer. And a lot of times, because they're cheap guys, they won't pay to learn the answer, and they just want someone to give them the answer. Well, sorry, brother, because that's what I do for a living, and I didn't get this stuff for free. Plus, a lot of it is my own genius, and that's just being frank about it. And that is, it's not stuff that I copied from other people. It's from paying the dues and operational experience. And so you're not getting it on a YouTube video, because a lot of people say, why don't you put stuff up and show us? No, because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, then why? And if I mean that's just self-evident. I mean, does somebody give you free car insurance? No, you know. I mean, and it's not. And car insurance doesn't cover it too because we're teaching you. This is educational too. This is educational. It's uh, it's not just providing a service, which a lot of people think. Well, you're doing no. It's an education. It's like we're not as opposed to let's say like medical. It's not us doing something medical for you. It's us teaching you how to become a doctor too. And so that value has to be recognized, and people who don't recognize it don't actually value it. So I really don't have any sympathy for people who are not willing to do that because you and I have both done that. I mean, that we're not the only ones, but we're guys who spent majority of our lives pursuing this goal. I mean, you know, unarmed, I there's nothing I don't know. Then that no, I know, and it goes to blunt weapons and blades. Yeah, there's really I don't there's nothing I don't know. Shooting, I got some stuff to learn still, but the and that's because that's what my expertise is in, and that's what it means to be an expert. You become an expert in your field. You try to climb to the top of the heap worldwide. Some do, some don't. But at a certain point, you arrive, and there's nothing you haven't seen. Like there's, you know, you're at the point where there's probably not much you haven't seen. You know, you've seen people's attempts at answering a problem against, like you're saying, you know, like you're saying, the guy, you know, does the slow gizzard stab, slow motion, and extends himself, and leaves his arm out, and doesn't retract and doesn't move. You know, you've seen everybody's would-be answers, and especially the ones I like is when you still see guys who are going to try to do a wrist lock.
Yeah.
No, I mean, are you kidding me? I just saw some guys who think that they're great doing this with a wrist lock disarm. Never going to happen. And he's never done it for real. It's never going to happen. You're going to die if you try to use that. You're going to die. And if they want to bet money, I mean, I won't kill them, but I mean, then they can do it against a 12-year-old kid. I got a 12-year-old kid and have them attack them with a marker or whatever, and they won't be able to do a wrist lock against a 12-year-old kid with a marker.
Yeah, so, that stuff's all total waste of time. Yeah, it doesn't work. I mean, it's you know, you know what happens. I mean, an untrained guy stands there, and it's like, okay, I'm going to shove the knife into you, and you do the wrist lock. And what does the guy do? As soon as the guy tries to apply the lock, all the guy does is lock up his whole arm, and that alone, and it's blown. And he's banging you with the other hand. It's over. It's just done that fast. It doesn't work. And that was one of the interesting things watching this Aikido guy with, you know, he shows himself doing these fancy great locks into takedowns, and then as soon as he steps out there with a guy who all the other guy's going to do is hit him, it's completely out the window. It just immediately failed, you know. And it's good to keep showing that to people too. And then maybe they'll quit doing that silly stuff and wasting time on it.
Well, but what besides that, I mean, that you and I have harped on that before, but I want to make it clear that you can't get the solution to that just anywhere. You can point out that there's a problem, but 99% of the people have no real solution. I mean, okay, so we pointed out, for example, that these wrist locks don't really work, and that there's thousands of guys trying to apply wrist locks as disarms. They will never work. They will never work. They've never faced a guy for real who's trying to kill them with a knife. That will never work. And I will bet heavily on it every time that they won't work. But you never see them coming up with something that, okay, so what happens? What will work? They never produce something that will. I mean, we're like you were talking about, there are guys who are proving by testing it out that the wrist locks won't work. I mean, I've seen some videos like that. Like, I don't need to watch a video because I know it won't work. And they're like, it doesn't work. But they don't have a solution because you got to go to an expert. who knows what they're doing to give a solution. And that's what I'm saying. That's where that's the part of the equation they're missing. The people don't want to pony it up and do what it takes to get the answers. They realize that this other stuff isn't going to work, but they don't do what it takes to get the answers. And that's and so, you know, pointing out stuff that's an error does not cure it. That's what I'm trying to get to. So you got to cure it, and otherwise it's not viable. And and that leads me to something I want to mention to people is that that's going to happen. I'm doing a blunt weapon course camp. Really, it's really a camp, blunt weapon camp, which is May 10th, Friday. Starts at 7 p.m. Starts at 7 p.m. It goes for a couple hours Friday night, and then Saturday it's the 11th and 12th of May in Ravenna, Ohio. It's on the details are on my websites, fluentfighting.com, or combat-judo.com, and they'll take you to it. But I'll be teaching you what I've taught contractors and military guys, and that's a system that's applicable to all sorts of blunt weapons. It's not Filipino stuff at all. It's not Filipino stuff at all. So if you've done Filipino, it's open. By the way, I got to say it's open to everybody. You don't have to have any prior training. No prior training's needed. You can take it. You just have to be 18 years or older. That's it. And I just want to put that out there because this hopefully will make you think what we're talking about. Will make you think about this, and maybe you've never considered that you need to do something about blunt weapons. Well, we're going to be covering that. So you'll learn how to use blunt weapons, and you'll learn how to use blunt weapons against blunt weapons. And I mean, you will do that in the time that you're training. You will have to face someone who's trying to take you out with a weapon. So yeah, there won't be any fake confidence here. So I just want to put that out there. But on your end, Ken, though, do you have any plans of doing anything specific for blunt weapons in the near future or not?
That's an ongoing thing that we do. I usually don't do that as a separate thing because it's a pretty consistent thing that we do in regular classes. I find that I attract more people from the outside when I focus more on particularly knife defense, because everybody knows it's just easier to draw them in. When I've done blunt weapon stuff in the past, it's like, I think it just goes back to what you were saying earlier. Most people didn't even realize how important that is. So they don't show up. They don't realize it's a problem until we bring it to their attention, doing it within the regular classes. So I haven't had much luck, to tell you the truth, attracting people to that. So I'm glad you're doing it. It's an easier time for me to get them to deal with the idea of going against a knife, handed. So that my answer is in my classes, but outside of classes, I've had bad luck drawing people that aren't already in the classes to any of that.
Yeah, well, this is the first time that I've ever taught this stuff to civilians. And generally, this is part of an overall package thing that I do. I mean, I don't just do blunt weapons. I do other stuff for military guys. It's part of things that they learn. But this is the first time. That's also something that a lot of people you want to be part of. And because my training, the way that I train is unknown to people who have not trained with me before, because you won't find it anywhere else. It produces results very quickly, and people are like, "Well, what is it?" Well, you have to come and find out. I mean, it's the same thing as you're not gonna find out without committing to doing it. So I can't say too much on that. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, like you're saying, that people don't realize how dangerous this stuff is. But that's part of what we do, I think, is to give people consciousness raising, as it used to be called, right? So we conscious raise people on the aspect of, wow, man, life's more dangerous than you thought it was. But you have to be aware of stuff. You have to be aware, because if you're not, it doesn't help you out. Being ignorant won't save you. That's been proven a lot of times in out in the world. So we have to. So yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I hope that you'll get some inquiry. Oh yeah. So anyway, yeah, because people always ask me, uh, how to get hold of you, Ken? How do people get hold of you?
Well, just the easiest thing to do is just to call me or text me 314-504-1178. That's the easiest. Or just go find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and uh, on YouTube. If you go there too, you'll see from my channel. I mean, you can email me that way as well. And that's probably easier than mine, because my regular email is kind of long. I've had it for years. I'm reluctant to change it, but those would be the simplest ways.
Yeah, because I get people always ask me like, "Oh, so is Ken with you? As you know, are you and Ken at the same location?" And a bunch of stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not. And Ken is not anywhere near where I'm at. Ken is in St. Louis, Missouri, United States, about the middle of the country, and he of the United States, I should say, and he is a accepting students if you talk to him, but it's not a just anybody. He wants to screen for that. I'm of course in Southeast Asia. I run courses in the United States also. I had a guy come over here recently and did some training, and I have that going on. Uh, but my schedule, that as I know it, is put on my website, on my combat judo website, as I know it. Things keep changing, so you have to look on the mailing list. If you're on the mailing list, you'll get notified about what's going on. But what I was trying to say, Ken and I are still trying to get a mutual thing going on, uh, and that is still in the planning. But if you're interested in either one of us going someplace, talk to us. We're available. Especially I'm available because my schedule is I'm free to travel. Or you're not free, but I mean I can travel. Ken is not in the case where he can travel except on some weekends. That's it. But I just want to put that out there because I get questioned about that stuff, and I just feel like it's better just to put it out there so
Yeah.
that people know that. And yeah, and like I've said, if you're anywhere near where Ken's at, you should go train with him, because you're getting years and decades of experience. And Ken is a guy who was influential, instrumental in the whole JKD explosion during the 80s and part of the 90s in the United States. He was instrumental in that, a leading guy in that. He's also paid his dues to several Filipino martial arts things, even though we say we don't like it. And we say we don't like it because we went through it. We went through it. We don't say we didn't like it because we don't know nothing about it. We say we don't like it because we went through it. So he, yeah, Ken has paid his dues. Ken is uh, well thought of there. He's taught at many different places. He was a guest instructor, many institutions, and he's still doing it. So you should. I tried to get some people were asking me. I forget where they're at, and they're like, should I go train with Ken? I say, yeah, you should go train with Ken. If you get down there, and they're like, well, where's the school? It's like, well, you got to contact them. That's the thing. That's what I got to get across to everybody about you is they need to contact you. Contact you. That's what they need to do. Contact you. So they can get all that information. But anyway, yeah. I mean, what else do you want to say about blunt weapons in an overview sense? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I guess just basically just what we've already said, that it's far more important, it's far more common than anything else, and at the same time, it seems to be the thing that's addressed the least. You know, I mean, to me, that right there is kind of the whole crux of the matter. You know, it's super important because it's the most common thing going on, and yet it's probably the most ignored. And like you said, who's doing it? You know, you just don't see it. You don't even see it. That's something I don't even see shown in the videos much, other than, the standard pattern kind of Filipino thing going on, but you don't see much of anything realistic. Here and there, you see something, not too bad, but yeah, that pretty much all I'd have to say about it,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's detail. The thing is, I don't want to get too specific into certain things. There's certain things I don't want to talk about because this is just put out for the general public, and I don't want to get esoteric. One, and then two, I don't feel like we should throw out too much free information because it's we didn't get it for free. We didn't get it for free, so I don't feel like we should throw it out there for people who wouldn't value it again. That's where I'm at with everything. So anyway, Ken and I will be back again talking about other topics and talking more. I know a lot of people always want us to talk about the Jeet Kune Do. I get all sorts of I get questions about what we think about this guy and that guy in JKD, and really we got some thoughts, but they're better divulged in a seminar sort of setting, and that's then putting it out here on YouTube where it could be misunderstood, misinterpreted. So anyway, I'm gonna sign us off out of here, and then we'll talk to you guys soon again. Remember to like, share, and to train. Okay, everybody, and Ken and I will talk to you soon.